Welcome to How's Your ePresence? This is a show produced by ePresence, and I am Mark Galvin, your host. Thank you for being with us today. We are glad you are here to discover new ways to solve marketing issues. We're always trying to answer the burning question that we think small and medium-sized businesses need to know about how they can market their organization a little better, and particularly connected to the digital marketing space. Every show is teed up with some sort of question. We always want to answer something. How do I fill in the blank? Here are some examples from the past shows. We have a show on how to use audio branding to build your brand. We have a show, we talked about how to optimize e-commerce stores. Haven't had another one, how to create and use graphics in your branding. Our shows run live either Tuesday at 10, and this is all Eastern, Tuesday at 10 or Thursday at 3 o'clock. Join us, throw your questions. I love the idea that throw it on the background. You can listen to what we're talking about and throw a question to us as you're doing whatever you're working on from home or from your home office, or for that matter, at your office. So one of the things important here is I like to ask this. If there's a topic you think we should respond to or go out and find, send us a note. Let us know at epresence.me is our website, or hit us on any social media, epresence.me. We would love to hear about those topics, and we'll go out and find someone to speak to that. Or you may have a guest. Someone that would be fantastic for the show. Send us those suggestions as well, any social media or right on our website. Now, we are always asking for questions. So if you will throw questions, just submit it right in the message update there, and we will ask them directly to our guest. And we've got a great guest today you're probably going to have some questions for, so send us those. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about recent Google updates. So Google has updated the algorithm, and that's probably a broad stroke, right? What does that really mean? Stick around. We'll give you that answer. We're going to answer questions like, how can you make sure your website is still performing well, even though Google has changed the way they're running their search engine? In the future, if you'd like to get back to the show, simply search for ePresence, how Google changed their algorithm in June of 2021. Now that you found us, we'd love for you to subscribe. So hit that subscribe button. No, it's on the other side. Hit that subscribe button. That way you get notified when we go live. So you don't have to worry about putting it on your calendar. You'll just get a notification when we go live. We are running our webinar again. So for a while, we paused the webinar. We're not doing them often, but we are running a webinar. It's back on the track. You can join us. It's next Friday. That is next Friday, the 23rd. Am I getting that right? At 1 o'clock. So please join us. We'll have more about that at the end of the show. All right. I mentioned before, we got a great show for you. We have an expert returning who, in his first show with us, he talked about SEO, and he mentioned these changes were coming out with Google. So we asked him to come back. So we have Ty Belknap from Port Bell SEO here back with us today. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Number one, he was a homeless teenager in Seattle. He went out to Hawaii for a while. He was a surfer. He was a dive master. And then he decided, you know what? I'm going to go and learn a lot more about technology. He worked at companies like Compaq and Microsoft. He started his own internet marketing organization / SEO in 2002, and he's the CEO of Port Bell SEO. CEO of Port Bell SEO. Reminder, ask us questions. I know I've asked you already once. Please throw some questions. We'd love to ask Ty some of the tough questions that you have, and we'll get those answered for you today. All right, enough about all this intro stuff. Let's bring Ty in. Ty, welcome back to How's Your ePresence? How are you, my friend?
Fantastic, Mark. How you doing today?
I am good. There's that voice again. Man, oh man. I love how you are really great for radio. You should do, have you done radio before? Did we talk about that last time?
Actually, I did do it kind of on my own. One of the first jobs I got when I moved to Hawaii was working at a radio station, and there were 2 ads that ran at midnight. I just had to watch everything in the overnight to make sure nothing broke. There were 2 ads that ran at midnight.
You were that guy.
Yeah,
I love
was that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'd stop the ads and do them myself.
Oh,
So they
sweet.
didn't even know that I did it.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. I did some voiceover work at a conference once, and
Mhm.
I had to call out numbers, and I felt like nobody was listening. So I started reading the numbers in Spanish to see if anyone would come and talk to me and or say, "Hey, you should do it in Spanish." Nobody.
Oh, that's funny.
Nobody cared. Nobody was paying attention. Well, I'm glad you're back at the end of the last
Yeah.
show. And we had you at the beginning of June on a live show. We were
Yeah.
just talking about all of you that are listening. There was, this is funny. Ty reminded us when we started today's show, right before the show offline, he said, "Hey, I think that if you drop this show before the last show, you may actually flip the order because we still haven't dropped your first show on our podcast channel. And
Mhm.
we are planning on dropping this one sooner because we're going to talk about really current events. So we're going to package these two to your first show
Yeah.
and this show together on our podcast channel. One of the things you said in the first show is that Google was about to come out with a brand new update.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit, if you will, give us a sense of kind of what you noticed have changed. And we've got some real specific things we'll get into, but I'd love to get an overview at this point.
Okay. Well, what really happened was Google was going to come out with what they call a core update back in, if you'll forgive me, I think it was April of this year.
Right.
And
Okay.
they delayed it. And so it wasn't expected to come out in June. It was expected to come out in April, and who knows why they decided to delay it. In June, Google had what was called their page experience update, which is an update for local businesses, which was a great update for anybody that does anything local. Google's algorithm found out that I think it was almost 60% of all searches done on Google are local searches. And so
Wow.
Google really wants to help local businesses because of that. But at the same time, they also did a core update. Now, a core update just broadly affects massive industries, and you never know what industry it affects. In fact, Google themselves say they don't even know what industry it'll directly affect until it actually comes out.
Oh my goodness. That actually sounds a little dangerous for the record.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. Well, and these core updates now are so huge that it's not like on June 7th it comes out. It actually took 2 weeks in June for this core update from beginning to end. And so it
okay,
was.
now do me a favor. I want to ask a question here on the
Yeah.
core updates. When you say core, I mean, to me, it sounds like we're really getting down deep into the coding.
Mhm.
So it's really changing some of the substructure that we don't really see. Is that does that define core, or am I oversimplifying it?
Well, that's a good basic definition, because I'm not here today to really get into the nitty gritty of it for SEO experts. I want
Right.
people who are regular entrepreneurs to understand this.
Gotcha.
And-
Well done. Well put. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it what you said is right. It really is about the nitty gritty stuff. It's the stuff. The best way to say it is the stuff that we don't see, but it affects everything we do see.
Got it.
And so they'll do a
Okay.
core update, and then all of a sudden it will flip the real estate industry off on its heels. And so people that have been page 1 for a year are now on page 10, and people you've never heard of are now on page 1. And people talk about the core updates, and they always talk about how they lowered in search engines, but that just means that someone else got higher.
Yes.
So not everybody always goes down.
Ty, I got a question for you here, and this is 100% all about me. So I'm just going to tell you in advance. As a social media organization, one of the things that we tell our clients is you need to make sure that you're working all the spokes on the digital wheel, right?
Mhm.
The digital marketing wheel would be a better way to say that.
Right.
And part of that is you got to make sure that you're doing some social work, social media management work, so that you're staying in front of that audience. It's more of a push than a pull, but it's still, you're there, because then if Google does, when I say push, go back to that. That's not if you're advertising on social. If you're advertising, that's more of the push. But the point is, when Google does change, if you do end up going from page 1 to page 10, at least all those other channels are still working. What do you think about that?
I agree, 100%, especially since Facebook, LinkedIn, even Twitter has opened up their floodgates, and you can now find posts on Google and Bing. It used to be where you couldn't find those. If you were doing a post on Facebook, you would never see it on Google or Bing at all, and now you can. It's going out slowly, but you can find more and more now. So
That's
being
cool.
on social media, yeah, can be a big thing. So even if you drop down in one area, the social media can help you go up in another area.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. All right. So the core update comes out.
Mm-hmm.
The number one realtor in Atlanta is now on page 10. We like that.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't the local realtor. Maybe it was the realtor that was coming in from another market that dropped, right? Yeah, okay.
Or maybe a national real estate agency is now lower than a local real estate agency.
Interesting. Okay, good. So the next topic I want to go into is the Google page experience in June. What do you mean by what is the Google page experience? What are you describing?
The Google page experience is, like I said, Google found out that a majority of the searches are local searches. People want to know about local information. And so the Google page experience update really was an update to help local companies more. Now, that doesn't mean that it hurts a national company. Take a national, sorry, I've got a dog deciding to bark at me right now. Let's say Home Depot. It may not affect Home Depot because they also have tons of local stores. But there's also ways, even if you're a national company, there are ways to better your local presence just by working on local areas rather than just saying, we're a national company, everybody goes into one spot. You can start separating that out into different localities.
Oh, that's good. All right. Now, for the record, I have headphones on, and I'm glad because my dog is right below me. And if he heard a dog barking, he would probably join in. It's kind of like crying babies at church. Yeah. They're all going to cry together. So I perfectly understand that. All right, good. So that's the page experience. So we're really going we're going more local. So more focus on local. And this means that is there another update that's coming up soon in July? Is there more data that's going to come out at us?
Well, there's actually a second core update that happened in July. So the first week to almost 2 weeks of July, there was another core update that happened. And Google usually does 1 to 2 core updates each year, but they don't usually do them back to back in 1 month and another one.
Wow. So this is pretty major, really, what you're saying. This was a big deal.
Give me just a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. It has majorly affected 9 different industries.
Oh my goodness.
That we know of so far.
So what now I don't necessarily want to go through those 9 industries, but I'd love to get those. Can you send those over to Morgan and me? We'll put those in the show notes. That'd be good to drop in the show notes.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
All right, this is good. So we got some questions here. And number one is Amanda Walker says, "Hi, Dr. Ty," which thank you, Amanda, for being here. She's asking a question, and that is, what are your thoughts on TikTok? Well, that's not necessarily about Google and Google search, but I will tell you, Amanda, I will answer this question. I think TikTok is addicting, for the record. It is 100% addicting. And it is a great place to reach a target audience if your target audience is there. Very important. So they are running more and more ads. But notice this is important. Go back to our last show. We had a guest on talking about Instagram. Instagram is trying to copy TikTok with Reels. So watch Reels. They're going to promote more of that. If you are willing to do some work on Reels, you'll reach more people on Instagram, which currently in our country has a lot more followers. So Amanda, thank you so much for asking that question. We appreciate that, and keep them coming. We'll probably hit some other topics where you may have some more questions. Okay, now there were 7 Google updates total between June and July of 2021. Why are there so many? What's going on, do you think?
I think part of it is because the big one that like the core update I talked about was supposed to be done in April, and they backed it off. And they do small updates all the time. I think they do small updates on a daily basis, but a lot of these updates were bigger. I think 4 of the 7 updates were major, and so why they did it, I don't know.
Okay.
I think it ended up being what I would call a perfect storm. It all just ended up coming out at one time.
All right, good. All right, let's get on to the next thing. And these are all great questions. How will the updates affect search rankings? What do you think is going to be the net result of all these changes?
Let me answer that by going back 10 years. If
Oh,
you were let's say a black hat SEO person 10 years ago, and you wanted to get to the top of the search engines, you would put like city names at the bottom of every page. I'm sure you've seen that before, where it's just
right.
listing every city and keyword and stuff like that. Well, Google quickly figured out that was spamming, and they would, get rid of pages that did that.
Right.
And that's really what all the updates are about. Because you think about it, when you go on Google, you type in, you want help. Whatever it is, you want help with something. And
Right.
you want Google to give you a good answer. And that's all Google is trying to do, is give you the best answer for the help. So if you've dropped in the search engines, that means that Google thinks that whatever's on your website is no longer the best answer. And so,
And I'm sorry. And
no.
I'm going to tell you, I think that's really interesting. It really speaks to what all business is doing, what we all do. We are trying to find our target audience and serve them as best as possible.
Right.
It is important to remember that Google's target audience is everybody using Google, right? But
Exactly. Yeah.
if I go into Google and I type in a search, I'm hoping to get the most accurate answer. So that's their goal. So if you're playing with, let's go back to 10 years ago, I put Philadelphia at the bottom of my website, and all of a sudden I'm showing up in searches from Philly.
Right.
That's not really a good thing. So this is it sounds like, give me your thoughts. Do you think these updates are really good and they're positive change?
They're necessary. It affects a lot of people, and there are a lot of people that it hurts, but there's more people to me that it helps, because
Okay, good.
it's giving. For instance, my main website with its last two updates actually went down a little bit, but I have several websites. One of my smaller websites went to the top, because I've been writing a lot more content for that smaller website. Google loved that content. People love the content. That's the big thing. People like the content. So that website shot up to the top of the search engines for some major keywords.
All right. I really like that. And that's good to know. Let me ask you a question that just came to mind. Does it make a difference if my website is on Wix or it's on WordPress when it comes to showing up in search rankings?
Yeah,
You laugh. He smiled. For those of you on the podcast, I got a big smile at him there. So, it sounds like he expected that. He didn't. That's a new one. What are your thoughts?
It's huge. Unfortunately, I have nothing against Wix. I help people that are on Wix websites. There are some Wix websites that get to the top of the search engines, but compared to WordPress, it's nothing. It's not even 1%. A vast majority of the websites on the top of the search engines are WordPress or custom HTML. Custom HTML is the big dog still, but most people don't do it because it's so difficult.
All right, this is interesting. Why is that the case? What is it that Wix has not figured out?
Not necessarily what they haven't figured out. They lock down so much that you can't go in and make some certain changes that you want to make. And their websites simply isn't as search engine friendly as Google websites are.
Interesting to me. I tell you what, we could do a whole episode on this. I think that's very interesting. So there are services out there that provide service for their websites, and maybe they even maintain them. What you're saying is, no matter what, it's better to be on just a coded site from scratch, right? Whether it's 100% HTML or go to WordPress. Those are the two best ways to have any type of site. Even if you're not doing any SEO work, those are the best sites to have. Is that right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Very interesting. Glad to hear that. And in some ways, I think there's some people that are probably squirming in their chair because they got a lot of money in their website, and it's not that. All right. Give me a sense of some of the industries that were hit. You did say there were 9 of them. Let's go over the top 3. What top 3 industries were really hit hard by this change?
This was actually kind of surprising to me. I figured industries like shopping and real estate, because what are we doing online more now than ever before? We're looking for real estate and we're shopping online. So those are kind of the obvious ones that you would think would be there, and they are. But the
Okay.
two biggest hit, for instance, or for some reason, are the sciences websites and pets and animals.
Okay,
And
I'm confused. What is a science? What is a science website? What constitutes as a science website, do you think?
I would think like like WebMD
Oh,
or things like that. You
okay.
know, and I don't know why they were hit so hard, but they were hit both the June and the July core updates affected that industry really big.
Interesting. Okay, so
Yeah.
science websites, and what was the number two?
Pets and animals.
Pets and animals.
Now that could be
So
because if we're shopping online so much, maybe people are shopping for their pets a lot more than they used to, and so Google wanted to make that more relevant or something. I don't know.
interesting. I think that's
Oh, duh.
fascinating.
I'm sorry. I just thought about that. Of course, sciences would hit COVID. Everybody's searching
Right.
for accurate information about COVID, and that would be why Google wants that to be so much more relevant.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So because it makes total sense,
Yeah.
and when you look at doing those searches, if I definitely, gosh, you know what? If I go in and I'm looking for information on the Johnson and Johnson vaccine,
Mhm.
you want to make sure I'm getting the correct information, not
Yeah.
something that's erroneous. All right. Good.
Yeah.
What is? And I only bring up the Johnson and Johnson vaccine because they've been in the news.
Yeah.
What's the number three one?
Number 3 is actually real estate, and that was hit more by the July update than the June one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would that mean to me if I'm a local real estate agent? Does it mean I'm going to show up higher in search results if somebody within my neighborhood searching, or what is that? How does that translate?
I would say, yeah, you're going to show up higher if you have good content. Because remember,
Oh, okay.
the whole core, the whole core of these updates is, do you have a website that's got great content? And in fact, Google actually came out with questions because so many people have been asking them, how do I fix my website? Well, of course, the first answer is your website may not be broken. But in fact, if you don't mind my plugging this, if you go to tysfreebook.com, you can find out if your website actually is broken, if there's something wrong with it that will affect Google. So
Yeah.
it may be broken, it may not
Good.
be broken. But if it's not, Google actually came up with questions such as, does it provide original information? Does it provide a substantial information? And
Hmm.
here's the one that surprised me is because magazines do this a lot. They'll say, top 7 reasons to do XYZ, number 5 will shock you, or something like
Right.
that.
Right. Seen those.
Google now downplays those titles. They don't want titles that are shocking in nature anymore.
Oh,
And
amen. That's so good. Well, and I will tell you the reason I say that, and I actually mean it wholeheartedly. We have culture. I'm going to call it a digital culture. The digital environment does better when people are clicking. And here's what's happening. Let's take the New York Times, for example. No longer are people going to the New York Times to find out what's going on in the UK or what's going on in South Africa or what's going on in Iraq, because there's all these other places we can get that information. It used to be you can only get that info from the New York Times and the Evening News. Well, you can get that anywhere now.
Yeah.
So their model has to change because not everybody is going other places to get their news. Now they are speaking to their audience, which wants to pay for that content. As a result, they're creating highlights or headlines where people are clicking because it'll track their audience. And if you get more clicks, it's going to drive more people to your page. Are you saying you think Google is now that's not as important? And so the Times are not going to get as many clicks with these great headlines?
One of the questions that Google actually wrote down is, does the headline or page title avoid being exaggerating or shocking in nature? So that means that they're specifically looking at that.
Unbelievable. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I got another question. Here's something I think that just drives me nuts. You get on a website and it's whatever. It says, check out, here are the 10 best baseball players this year. This happens on sports sites all the time. You land on a page and you've got to click to see the next page, which gives you another image. And, the best baseball player is X. You hit the page. The second best player is Y, so on. I really feel like, they're just really playing with the algorithm to show that I'm clicking through. Is this something that Google's paying attention to and trying to get them to stop? You think?
I haven't heard anything about that. And I think the reason why they do that, if you look at it, they can do a different ad on every page. And so they can sell
Oh,
more ads by
I
having more
should have thought of that.
pages.
Yeah.
And so that's not necessarily anything that Google has a problem with, as long as people are going to all the pages. It doesn't mean that Google will rank all the pages, to the top of the website. There may only be the main page. It ranks for Google, but it's going to be a good selling thing for the company. At least that's what I've
Fascinating.
seen, why people are doing that so much.
Yeah, there's a sports site that my son says, I hate this site. They make me go through 10 pages to read stuff. And
Yeah.
I totally get it. Okay, last question. And this has been great. This is fitting in nicely to our timeline here. But what's important about this for entrepreneurs, especially with small to medium-sized businesses? We have entrepreneurs listening to our show, asking questions, wondering how they can do better. What should they know when it comes to SEO? And maybe they're already working with an SEO provider. They are always, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with SEO, right? You really don't
Yeah,
know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
What is it that they need to know about this update that's going to really impact them?
The biggest impact, and the funny thing is I told people this back in 1995, and I've been saying it ever since then, is write good original content that people want to read. If you do that, if people want to read it, then Google's going to rank it to the top of the search engines, because Google is going to want people to get to it.
Got it. All right. So it really does come down to content. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you said, and when you described it, you said good quality content that people want to see, that people want to interact with. So there's a lot of people that are producing a ton of content all the time, but it may not be great content. Is there a trick, you think, to figuring out what is good quality content?
That's when you start getting into the more techie stuff about the how to design high quality content. There's actually some AI apps that are coming out to help people do content creation.
Cool.
And I haven't looked at them yet to see what their quality is like. But yeah, actually writing quality content is one of those difficult things. Getting it done just right can be tough. I've had times where I've written the same thing over 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 times to get it just right,
I totally get that. So we're going to get a lot of people that are going to want to watch this show. Speaking of great quality content, because your dog is like having his own dialogue.
Yeah, he is. He wants to be on the show, I think.
And you're such a trooper. You just pressing right through that. This may be something that happens often with this with dog. And you have what? You have 4 dogs, is that right?
We have 4 rescues, and so we're really kind of lenient with them because they've all been abused in the past.
And so wow, isn't that nice? Wait. I said it wrong. It's not nice that they've been abused. It's nice that you're taking them in and giving them someplace loving to live. That's fantastic.
They do all have their little idiosyncrasies, though. So.
I totally get it. I would have my idiosyncrasies if I had been through the same thing, I'm sure. Dr. Ty, I love this information. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming back and being willing to share all this.
Thank you for inviting me back. I appreciate it.
Dude, well, it's been fun to talk to you. I enjoy the time spending with you, and the content you share is good quality content. So awesome. We're always interested in helping our audience out, and you've done that for us. Where can people find you? And you also you did plug the book again. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that, and then tell people where they can go to find you.
Oh, yeah, my book is Timeless SEO Secrets. I talk a lot about content creation in that, and I guess I should have mentioned that when we talked about that more. So yeah, Timeless SEO Secrets, stuff that worked back in the 1990s and still works today to get you higher in the search engines. I talk about content and keywords and a lot in that book. And the best way to get a hold of me, I'm on all the social media, but go to portbell.com. You can find out information about my book. You can find out information about the TysFreebook.com is actually on there too. How to get higher in the search engines. I got everything right on the front page of my website. Rock
on, man. I love it. I am so thankful that you made time for us to come. You and your dog had time to join us today. And really, this is good stuff. People don't understand SEO. They don't understand what's going on with Google. And being able to really tee it up like you have has been so valuable. I am so appreciative of you. Thank you for joining us. Don't go anywhere. I'll love to chat with you after the show. You know how to do this.
Oh,
We
yeah.
did this
Thank
on
you.
the last show, and we'll talk to you soon. But again, thanks for being here, Dr. Ty.
Thank you so much.
So for the rest of you folks, thank you for being here. We love you. We appreciate the time that you spend with us. I want to give you a quick little highlight. We are doing our webinar again. What is the webinar? This is a LinkedIn profile webinar. And here's the goal. We try to help people who are out of work, or people who want to get promoted, or salespeople who need LinkedIn to work better for them. We do a LinkedIn webinar where we go over the 5 key things that you should focus on your LinkedIn profile. This will help you show up higher in search results and rankings. It'll help people find you. It'll make sure you are giving a great quality first impression. And this is because there are more and more people on LinkedIn. It's turning into a business database, not just what it started off as, and that was to get a new job. So if you're looking for you want an ROI from LinkedIn, you should join us. It's $37.50. And all you have to do is simply go to, where's my link here? Here it goes, e-pr.me/discount. And that will get you to that training, or just go to our website, ePresence.me, look for webinars, and you can find that. For $37.50, you can join us there on our webinar. It's next Friday, Eastern time at 1 p.m. Folks, thanks for joining us here in How's Your ePresence. What is ePresence? We're a full-service social media agency. We manage personal, company, social media across all platforms. We also offer consulting and training. There you heard about the webinar. We can run that webinar for you and your organization and customize it for your organization specifically. So if you're interested in any of that, just simply go to our website, ePresence.me, and you can send us a message, and we would be happy to have a chat with you. This show, How's Your ePresence, is everywhere. You can catch it live, as you see, right here on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. We are always asking for people to subscribe. So if you would, hit that subscribe button over there. That way, if you're subscribed to YouTube, Facebook, or our LinkedIn page, you'll get notified when we go live. If you like today's content, you're going to see more and more of it come out. So pay attention to the stuff that we're dropping. I think we're going to provide a lot of answers for you. And if we're not, send us a notification that you'd like for us to talk about something else. We drop all these shows on podcasts, so every podcast channel out there, just go out and look for How's Your ePresence. You'll be able to track us down. We're always adding more content every week, staying in front of the information curve. This show is produced by ePresence. Our producer, writer, and social media extraordinaire is Morgan Wood. Thank you, Morgan, for all the work you do. Until next time, for my guest, Dr. Ty, I am Mark Galvin, and this has been How's Your ePresence?